day 6 of my cross-country trek from Montesano, Washington, right out by the coast, to Kinston, North Carolina, right out by the other coast. I'm here in the mountains in West Virginia. It's a little bit of a drizzly morning, kind of like Western Washington. It's the first real rain that I've had on the entire trip. And I've been just here reflecting on the wonderful provision of God, His care. I'm towing a 25-foot trailer loaded to the gunnels with all my worldly possessions, I guess, and driving my F-250 truck. And I prayed, and my loved ones prayed, and many of you have prayed for me on this trip, and I have seen the hand of God in such wonderful and remarkable ways that I've just been worshiping at the wheel here this morning, thanking the Lord. I'm grateful for those of you that love me and have supported me. I know a number of you probably don't know about what's been going on in my life in the last 2 years. Be more about that later, but I'm a writer, and when you begin to craft a plot for a story, you know, there has to be a status quo, and then there has to be something that breaks the status quo, the normal, the way things are, and that's some kind of struggle, conflict, problem that enters the story. Of course, stories do that because life does that. But I'll be honest, just from my frail perspective, I wouldn't probably put in all of the layers of of troubles that God has ordained for me in these last 2 years, because it would seem unreal to my readers, I think. Just too much. That's just over the top. Nobody could have that many layers of stuff happen in that. You know, we read the book of Job, and of course Job, it's the way trials come. They come in these waves. And, you know, it's not just donkeys, it's also camels. It's not just his livestock and his temporal possessions. It's his family. It's his kids. Dead. It's his wife. His wife even tells him, curse God and die, since he's abandoned by his wife. But that's not it either. Then there's the affliction of his body and the grinding, unending character of that. It just doesn't stop, and it's so painful. Well, God is a good God. That's what I've been learning. He's been teaching me that. I'm still learning it in the midst of great trials and suffering. And we want to love Him and be grateful to Him. And I'm grateful this morning for all of His manifold goodness to me in keeping His hand on this wheel of this truck, keeping me alert at the wheel, 15, 16-hour days, crawling through mountain passes. I'm probably only doing about 35 right now, crusting up here, about to come down the other side. So it's been a slow crawl, 3,000-mile crawl. I got a couple of 100 miles more to go. But I'm grateful to God, and I'm grateful to those of you that have supported me. I ended up with a killer case of COVID early last October. I ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks. I otherwise was healthy, fit. Shouldn't have been happening, humanly speaking. But it was a really bad case, and I was under a lot of stress, and I think I was more vulnerable to it because of that. But in the midst of that, I got a voicemail while I was in the hospital. The doctor told my loved one that he has a really bad case. I'm going to be honest with you, it could go either way. And in the middle of that, I get a voicemail hoping that I would have a very long, prolonged period of painful suffering and then die. Providence of God, that hope didn't come true. And I'm very grateful to God. I have so much to be thankful for, more than I can even tell you right now. Praise be to God. He's good. Whatever suffering and affliction you find yourself in today, and I'm sure you do, it's a fallen world. Hope in God. Cling to Christ. Do like Katerina Bambora did. Her last recorded words as she was dying were, "I cling to Christ like a burr to cloth." Let's do the same together. He's our only hope. Like the disciples, Jesus said, "Are you going to depart from me too?" When others were leaving him, he says, where will we go? You have the words of eternal life. And he does. Trust him. Hope in him.